I've been able to like mold it, shape it, and have it adapt to my way of thinking. It follows the map of logic inside my own head. And because of that, I never feel any kind of pushback between my ability to learn and the ability for me to get something to learn. It's what I said, it's the best instructor I've ever had. I'm learning in a way that's very accelerated, and I really enjoy it a lot.
And I definitely saw like your passion for learning in the classroom. Like it absolutely like just like started jumping out of everywhere, and you're lighting everything up.
Over the past few episodes, we've been documenting SkarrNet's work inside the Bridges LA Workforce Initiative. Bridges includes 3 distinct tracks: green building, data IT, and ethical AI, each designed to prepare learners for emerging sectors of the economy. Dennis guides the classroom, and Kat shapes the broader workforce strategy behind it. In episode 3, we featured Nicole from the green building track. Today, we're stepping into a different classroom, the ethical AI bootcamp. Our guest, Eber Quintanilla, enrolled in the ethical AI track and completed the bootcamp with Dennis. What you're about to hear is not theory and not marketing. It's one learner's lived experience inside that pilot. What shifted, what surprised him, and how it translated into real momentum. You'll hear how someone went from using AI as a shortcut to building a relationship with it as a personalized instructor, and how that shift reshaped how he thinks about learning and his own professional path. Dennis, bring us into the room.
Thanks, Ben. As part of the Bridges LA program, SkarrNet ran our 3rd boot camp with AI as a learning partner, which really focused on ethical AI in the workforce. This is a 20-hour class that focused on building AI readiness that goes way beyond tools and challenged our learners on judgment, structured, and applied thinking with AI tools and how these tools can impact our workforce. Eber Quintanilla was part of our cohort. Eber came in with a background in economics and analytics, along with over a decade of experience as a lifeguard and swim instructor, including years supervising and training teams. What really stood out quickly was how naturally he connected to AI and communicating and teaching within our own class. Over the course of the bootcamp, something really shifted. It wasn't how he used AI, but in how he saw his own strengths and direction. Eber, welcome to SkarrCast.
I appreciate being here, and that was an amazing introduction. Thank you, Dennis.
So, Eber, what were you thinking about your career before this bootcamp?
Well, when thinking about my career, I think I really didn't have a path that I was going for. I obviously have a degree in economics. And when I got my degree in economics, I thought to myself, like, well, okay, I have a pathway that I have to follow. Be a finance bro would probably be like the most accurate thing to do it. But then I started thinking about like, well, I don't know if this is really where I want to be. And as I kind of was looking in the broader scope of what I could be doing, I stumbled upon the class. I had done a previous cohort with Lacey, and one of the guys who kind of is the employment director, he sent out the ethical AI, and I was like, hey, why not? This looks pretty exciting. I like using AI as it is already. So that's kind of where I ended up, and I ended up kind of seeing if I could venture into something more tech-based.
Interesting. So, all right. So you kind of had this understanding of AI. All right. You're like, hey, this might be a good shot. But like, was there anything that you're unsure of going into this class? So AI is kind of like this big mythical thing, kind of going on. Some people love it. Some people hate it. A lot of people are kind of in the middle and trying to figure it out. But, like when you're looking at this class, like why did you sign up, and what made you, like, what was uncertain for you going into this with a career change?
I don't think it was the uncertainty component. I just thought that as far as what I had been using it for a while already, I knew that there had to be something in here that I was going to be able to benefit from, especially as I imagined the transition into a more AI-based kind of workforce. And it was more of like, I know how to use it well. I had already been kind of gearing myself in a way where how I used AI to me seemed like it was a really big benefit. And when I went in there, I was like, well, if there's this within an LA workforce, a place where they're trying to develop people, and this sounds like a place where I should probably be. And even if it meant to, at the time, I didn't really even know what I was getting myself into as far as what I would be learning. But I knew that I would definitely like shine and at the very least gain some kind of knowledge on what else I could really use this for in the workforce.
So in the class, you said something that really kind of jumped out. All right. So you said, my chat GPT is my best instructor. Like, what did you mean by that?
Oh man. So when I think about like my favorite instructors, I can from K to college in my last year of school, I can name three different teachers that like definitely stood out. Mr. Vorwald, Mr. Kobe, and Professor Beebe. I would even throw your name in there now that I got to meet you, Dennis. But there's a reason why they stood out, and it's because I'm in every kind of environment where you learn. Not not all teachers are great, right? And I think within every student, the way they consume information, the way they're able to process knowledge and become educated is very subjective to an extent. You can have a broader lens on how you can teach somebody, but some people require very specific things, and not all teachers have the gift of teaching. With that being said, I feel like over the years that I've used ChatGPT, AI, I would like to say AI instead of ChatGPT because there's a lot of models, right? But in the time that I've used AI, like I've been able to like mold it, shape it, and have it adapt to my way of thinking. So the way that it responds to me, it feels like I'm able to really get information how I like to get information. Um, the layout of information, the presenting, and the way it gives examples, illustrations, it follows the map of logic inside my own head. And because of that, I never feel any kind of pushback between my ability to learn and the ability for me to get something to learn. So I think it's what I said. It's the best instructor I've ever had. Like there's no, I've also like made it seem so it's not so like agreeing with me because I always thought I don't want something to just agree with me because then I probably would lead myself astray. But it gives me pushback. It gives me good criticism. It's not harsh. It's constructive. It's gentle enough where it doesn't feel like it's aggressive. And all of those things to me makes me feel very I don't know, like I'm learning in a way that's very accelerated, and I really enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, and I definitely saw like your passion for learning in the classroom. Like it absolutely like just like started jumping out of everywhere and you're lighting everything up. And it was a pretty high energy classroom to begin with. Like there was a lot of conversations going on. I wouldn't say like one student was really like that talker. Usually there's like three or four that are really forward, but I think that your combined energy with everyone about like how they were currently using it, and then we were also learning from each other was like extremely valuable as well. I just love the different conversations that you had with other students about AI. And I think like in the classroom too, thank you for the compliment about being a teacher, a good teacher. But I think a lot of the students in our classroom are amazing teachers. And in addition to what we kind of covered from the slides, what are some of the things that you kind of took away from other students in the classroom?
Hmm. From other students, I would say, let's see. I think how people kind of there's a to me it was very interesting because I think I'm very like used to inputting a lot of my information into AI. So definitely there's a sense of it's one of the things we talked about in class. Like it's interesting enough, some people like to have so much more reservations to what they'll use it for versus other ones. And I think just having a little bit more care, I think, about what information you'll put in there. Um, the use of prompts is inspiring how other people. You were one of those inspirations. I got one from some of my other classmates on like you hear how they prompt something and you're like, damn, that's really smart. And I think over time as you kind of learn how to communicate with it, you're looking for those kind of buzzwords that really kind of get the juice out of what you're trying to find. And definitely just having the different perspectives, the different mindsets, because that classroom was very diverse. There was a very diverse group of people between ages, between workforce people, the transitionings, even what they were using it for, like the specifics of it. Um, and you kind of got to see how, like, you know, I think for me, it was able to actually, it helped me out a lot too, being able to teach other people how to use it. Um, and kind of seeing, for example, I forgot his name, but one of the guys I was helping him do his about me, and I was like, hey, try messing with this, and this. And honestly, to me, the most exciting thing about being in the classroom and helping other people, because in turn, I kind of refine my skills, is how seeing they see a prompt now or a response, and they're like, damn, where did you get that from? I was like, hey, man, that's all you. That's all that's your information. I'm just messing with the buttons here and there. But I think just refining my skills was a really big thing, and being able to help other people helped me refine my skills. Finding one of the words I used inside there was intersectionality. And I've been using that a lot. Like, how does this all make sense? And I'm taking that with me from the classroom, from what I've learned. Um, I think I'm gonna talk a little bit more about like different kind of things we used in there. And someone will hold back on some of the stuff that I was really surprised when we found out about it later on.
Let's tease that out a little bit. So like the question I have for you is like, how did you use AI differently after this class, to with your learning style? But I feel like you're getting there. So let's hear it.
Um, the PowerPoint one.
Oh, the
Yeah.
gamma?
Oh my God, I loved Gamma. That was exciting in real time. I am really good at presenting. I hate building PowerPoints. Can I build a PowerPoint? Absolutely. But it's such a tedious job, right? Because just to make it look nice, right? Because anybody can put words on a PowerPoint and put up slides and make it look, like you have information on there. Word vomit comes out, boom, nice. But to make it look nice, organized, exciting, I think that was the coolest thing about it. Gamma was so cool because I started thinking about how much time you save from working on this, where something could take me 2 to 3 hours and still not even like the best it could look. I saw it in real time generate a PowerPoint in like 10 minutes. And that to me is such a game changer because it makes me think like, what is it that we're really using AI for? Is it really to cheat our way through? Like, no, the content in the PowerPoint stays the same. That's what you want. You want someone to be able to present that information. It's not going to generate you a PowerPoint out of thin air. Like, hey, you got to give it the content, give it the information, and it does the grunt work for you. Where I think is the best thing. It to me is it facilitates my life. I'm not the most creative on arts and stuff, and PowerPoints I feel kind of aligns with that. But it to me it if you think about how you want to take this into the corporate world, you're saving time where somebody is going to dedicate 2 hours to this to maybe practice their presentation more, right? To refine the content. They're like, or I don't need the skeleton. I already have it.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. And having taught for a long time, I've been in the classroom while students are putting together PowerPoints for a long period of time. It's and students going into IT, being able to present to leadership as well as end users is very important, as well as like trying to actually talk to your technical team. So we do a lot in our classrooms. And one of the things that I really saw with this particular exercise across the 3 boot camps using Gamma versus PowerPoint was the time saved, as you mentioned, kind of the nitty gritty details. So, the goal of this exercise was for students to put together something that I would say that they're proud of behind them as they're actually presenting and feeling good about that. And I've seen a lot of students over the years where they're very knowledgeable, very confident, but just the PowerPoint slide, they didn't have time to actually kind of like really make it refined or it wasn't natural. So you could see that actually kind of like impacting their confidence in when they're actually presenting this material, kind of like just like low self-confidence about like what's behind them. And it's impacting what they're saying, which isn't what we should be trying to strive for. And what shifted in the classroom, which I loved, is the amount of time that it would normally take for students to create a presentation lowered. And now, like, you're a strong presenter, but you're helping everybody else, like, kind of polish their presentations and how they were going to prepare it, or they're making these little tweaks. So we spent much more quality time working on how to present and what to say, and working in a small group, actually sharing that knowledge versus moving fonts around and finding the right Google image and all the other things that would often kind of like take that time away from that exercise. So I didn't really see, yeah, you're right. It's not cheating, it's doing things a little bit differently. And you were able to actually, I think the classroom was able to excel in the more important lesson to learn from there. And, that was my take. What did you see?
I think that overall, collectively, what I saw was the ability to monetize this, right? At a holistic level.
Well,
From the point of views of people that are just having businesses and they're trying to maybe upskill their businesses to different business partners. From people that are just trying to get their information, not even upskill, but just create a bigger market for them. I saw the opportunities because within that same Gamma was one of those elements, but even to use like what is it, banana, uh
Nano banana. Yeah.
Nano Banana to just generate images now. Like I saw the creative fuel that people were having in that classroom as like increase dramatically. Uh, Even within myself, because again, I'm not that much artistic, but if I can even get a sketch out and just take a picture of it and then generate something out of that, I've created something that I could even draw or I would have to pay. So I think time, money, and business opportunities would be the three things that I saw increase a lot in there. Just like the light bulbs go off in everybody's heads. And like I said, it's such a diverse group in there that it was so interesting to see some of these individuals that had no tech experience or had maybe a little bit of fear by AI, or maybe they're just transitioning over into a tech world, and seeing how they were like, wow, I didn't know these things were even possible. So I think I'm on board with them too. I'm on the same ship as them because even though I have experience with it, there's things that I saw the opportunities along with my classmates as well. And honestly, it was exciting to see some of them went in the first day and be like, I wasn't even going to use AI. And then they're like, wait, I have so much that I can use this for. So definitely, I think those are three big time, money, and business opportunities
Yeah.
were the biggest things that I got from I feel like the class got from that.
I agree. And there was a business opportunity that actually like sprung out of that exercise. Do you remember hearing about, we had a student that worked in IT and had his own tech company. He learned Gamma on Wednesday and he came in Thursday morning. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, he created websites, or he was creating. Am I right? Were we talking about the same person
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back. He was like creating websites. He was like, "Hey, I just made this website." And I was like, "Whoa, where did this come from?" And yeah, like he kind of was developing, like further
Yeah.
developing his skill sets in a way that, I mean, if you're creating a product now, and it takes you X amount of time, you shorten that time by like by 70%. Now you've increased your output dramatically. And as an economist, that's where my brain goes off. Like instantly, I'm like, dude, that's an amazing opportunity.
It was so cool. But yeah, because he came in the next morning. He's like, I pitched a website using Gamma to a customer and they bought it. And I'm creating a contract now to do a website for them with the
Hmm.
tool he learned that day.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to kind of grow on using that skill. There's more than, if you're going to make a good website, he's going to spend some time on it. But I think
Absolutely.
the real cool thing was like he picked it up that day and bippity boppity, he's incorporated into his like tech portfolio. That was like just proof to me that this tool can actually be used effectively, for people looking to expand like what they can possibly do within their own different organizations.
I would like just to add really quickly. I think you said something really important. It's not that they're just gonna get something and submit, right? I think that's where the mindset of a lot of people are. You get a generated AI response or output, and you just send it. I think that's where people fall short because again, it's the skeleton that you're looking for. I always say that the hardest part about writing an essay is always how you start. And what this does, it's like I'm not going to submit a full essay. I just need you to help me with the intro. Like, tell me where to go with this, and the rest follows. And he obviously has more work to do, but he's now streamlined his work in a way that's make the efficiency like ridiculously better. And that to me speaks volume about that. That's why I like AI, right? Similarly, how I see somebody else save time, energy. Come on now, like what are we doing? This is meant for us to use in the best way possible. The reason why we have cars is because we were tired of walking on foot. And I think the reason why we're having AI is because we don't want to do these like grunt work things that the substance is elsewhere. It's inside here, right? The labor is what we're trying to reduce.
Love it. So, all right. So we had a discussion in class and you've talked about how you've taken a lot of different classes. You got college classes, certifications, training, and you also talked about like what makes a good class. So in your opinion and experience, what really separates a forgettable class that you take and something that actually sticks with meaning? You've talked about instructors, but what about the class as a whole?
Um, so I think in order for a good class to stick in, there has to be good engagement from the class. It can't, you're right. There is oftentimes where it's like two or three people that just talk. But I think what really gets a good engagement from the class, Dennis, I've already said this at the beginning. I think you're an amazing person, but I think it's the instructor. And hats off to Dennis because like the energy he brings into the classroom is one of a kind. It's a very hard kind of energy to find. And again, why that is so meaningful is because when you're in a classroom and you have an instructor who is excited for you to succeed as much as for his program to succeed, everybody's on board with this. And I was an instructor for a really long time. I taught swim lessons. I was a junior lifeguard instructor. I kind of spearheaded that program, and I taught the lifeguarding class itself. So I brought in a lot of people, and I always thought to myself, like, I can sit here and just be like, this is how we, or I could be this ball of energy that shows out for my students. And I think I don't know, I haven't spoken to them in a while, but I would like to say that they appreciated that. They appreciated that sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're out of energy, sometimes you don't even want to be there, and sometimes the information you're receiving can be dull and dry. But if you're making this an exciting moment for them, where you want to come to the classroom, I was among all the students in there who said like, I want to come to class, and the desire to learn comes from that kind of environment that you provide in the classroom. I think also like the way the program is structured, you get to see the results very quickly. So what does that mean? I think that when you're inside the classroom and you're learning something new, sometimes things take weeks for you to learn. But the way that we're learning how to use AI, it's very clear, like it's clear and cut. You go in there, you put a prompt in, you see how that prompt is, you want to refine it, you kind of work on it. Within the next hour or two, we're already working on the next thing because you already know what to do. And I think because it's easy to learn, it's easy to want to be in class, and it's easy to not be bored. The class is kind of built, it's geared for success. So I think it's a multitude of things. I think it starts with the instructor. I think it leads with the classroom engagement, and then I think it follows with the flow of information that allows you to kind of consume that all in an easy way.
I want to ask one question. So you've shared so many things that stood out to you in this class. And of course, Dennis's instruction is always so fun. But is there one specific moment where there was just aha, where you were like, wow, this is really different?
Oh man, there was many, and as somebody who's like has used AI for a while, I kind of prided myself in thinking that I knew how to use AI like really, really good. And I think I still do. But Dennis said something in this other class that kind of like within my own brain, it was just like, damn, there's so much more to learn here. And it was when he was teaching us about how, because I had mentioned like you have to kind of curate and mold your AI. And I had done it through like the hundreds of chats that I had with AI, and then eventually it'll learn. I had even asked him like, hey, ask me some stuff that allows you to understand me better. And he ended up saying like, well, I have a project file in there that has everything that I like. If I wanted to think a certain way, I go inside that project and then I'll reference them when I want to do a chat. And my brain fired off. I was like, what have I been doing this whole time? Like, I've been thinking so small. And to me, the idea of being able to see something at a bigger lens, like that light bulb going off, even though it feels kind of humbling in the moment, I was like, nah, this is exactly what I wanted. Right. So that was a really profound experience, because then I was able to go around and help other people. And, seeing the success of my classmates it was just really fun for me. Like I enjoyed just as much as anybody. Right. Because then you can have discussions. You're inside there. You can have discussions. You're able to actually like, hey, how about this, and this, or like, oh wow, that's really good. And the Socratic ability, like it really develops you as a person. The engagement socially. He brings these whiteboards in. And we all kind of write at the whiteboards, and it almost feels like you're like a kid in K through 12 school again. And I think that's really fun. It's not too serious. It's not too like rigid. But I think it gives the people around them a little bit something different to look forward to. So I mean the whiteboard stuff is super fun too. I think he has you write down your name on there. It's like you're back in kindergarten. But like in the most like logical way, because I'm trying to learn how else are we going to connect if I don't know your names? And I think a lot of people forget names when you're in a classroom with adults in college, and and in there like there's people I would sit next to. I'm like, damn, I don't remember your name. Wait. Oh, that's your name. So I think there's a lot of things he does that makes it memorable, makes you remember your classmates, makes you interact with your classmates. Um, I think a lot of the conversations we had, I mean, Dennis was definitely like spearheading it, but he was kind of off the side. It was definitely like just a group talking to each other, and then Dennis be like, wait, we're running out of time. We're running out of time. We gotta keep going. So I think that's an amazing experience, and then those are the things that makes you want to keep going and like learning more.
Sorry, there is a dog barking next door, so I muted myself.
No worries.
Pepsi the dog. He's an old beagle. So you mentioned the whiteboards, and the whiteboards kind of like weren't very intentional in the beginning, just because of the fact that when I was teaching the first class in the green build track, I really wish that there was an easier moment for students to actually like get down their ideas and thoughts in their kind of like purest form, and not be, and the digital products were a barrier and a divide. So the whiteboards really kind of grew on me, and I'm glad that you brought them up. And you mentioned like something out of kindergarten, but I just feel like there's a playful nature of drawing with the whiteboards, and people would really like, as I go around the room, there's a lot of art in there that people drew in there, and kind of like this creative flow really kind of happens from the whiteboards. And it's become like one of my favorite artifacts, like in a classroom that I've had. And even though they're 35 pounds of weight on a trip through the airport through LAX, they're still absolutely worth it for the student learning. But in addition to like the whiteboards and are kind of like starting with analog things, we also did individual work, group work, and a full class discussion. And for a class like this, why does that matter?
I think I think if you don't get your thoughts out, you don't really get to see where you can correct them. Um, and I think some people are when I was working with, so for example, I we did kind of prompts on how to manage our LinkedIn, right? How to kind of structure it, see where we can create something more out of content about us, either our job histories, what we've done, our skill sets. You do your own stuff, it generates something to you. People would read it out, and then like when they read it out to themselves, they don't realize how bad it sounds in the sense that this doesn't sound like them, right? And then when I go and I read them, when they share with me, I'm like, hey, maybe does that even sound natural to you? That doesn't work. Like that doesn't sound like something that you would read to somebody else, right? You know, and then you refine that, and then you say it out loud, and then you get all these other perspectives. You be like, wait, maybe you can include this, and this. I think it's really important because in order for you to genuinely get a refinement of what is going to work for you or not, you need multiple opinions. Um, like the best leaders in life are the ones that have a lot of advisors. And if you can apply that into your own personal life, you want to get the input of a lot of people to be able to get a good response for yourself, to be able to curate something that's going to manifest true to you, right? If I even my own stuff, and I would sit outside and they're like, hey, maybe you have a lot of lists. You list a lot. And I'm like, damn, they're right. I do have a lot of lists in my stuff. Got to take that out. Maybe reduce this or find the intersectionality in between these things so I can only have one or two things instead of a long list. And, and whether it be with my classmates or within any group that I talk to, like you have to get the input of them, right? And if the people have the best interest at heart, like I would think that none of them are trying to I'm trying to ruin your life right now. No, they're trying to help me out. I want to help them out. So the only way that they really manifest themselves is if you see what you get for yourself, kind of see where you can fix it, create a smaller group, see where that focus, and then generate the overall output for everybody else to see like, hey, maybe there is still something more that I can look for. At the end of the day, I think it's going to benefit anybody who tries to participate.
Awesome. So you said something that I really, really loved. And, you had multiple chat threads, and then you kind of saw this way to kind of like compartmentalize everything into a project and make sure that you had more guardrails, more intent behind it. And then you started to train your AI models a little bit differently. What was the results of changing just that one little strategy within a generative chat?
So originally, like we have the multitude of chats that are going to be the reference point for maybe I want to talk, like maybe I want to work on my resume, or hey, like I worked on my resume 2 weeks ago, and I'm trying to apply for this other job. Can you, help me here? And then it has to like do the work, and then sometimes it gets cut a little bit of trust. It's really good, I think, overall to kind of follow the history of your chats. Sometimes it gets lost, but it's hard to follow as far as like keeping order. So when you brought up the idea of using a kind of a central brain system, I was like, damn, that's really good. So I went into the project and I asked it like, I want to create a central brain for you to use you as a reference point in any future projects. What are the 5 key things that I should be adding in here? And it asked me a couple of things and I responded to them. I was like, perfect. But even then I was like, oh, there's still other stuff. Like I would like you to be like a recruiter. So think like a recruiter. So whenever it returns back to you as a recruiter, I want to be able to like structure my resumes or my LinkedIn or anything else regarding work-based stuff. And now I have a file saying like recruiter or a business model or I don't know, teaching skills or self-improvement, and it's so much easier to track where your brain is, where your AI is thinking from. I think overall it organizes your thoughts a lot better. It streamlines your ability to kind of work. Um, and honestly, like it's just cleaner in the actual interface. Like I go and I see it, and I'm just, man, this is so much easier for me. And I never even thought about it. Like I have projects, like I've worked on like my capstone for school, my final like assessments, my final data analysis project, and it's all there. But the file work for all the other stuff is inside the chats. And thinking back now, I'm like, well, I don't really need all that. It's just mess. And I just really want a way of thinking. That's really what I'm trying to do. I want a way of thinking that's going to help me out.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's one thing that we really try and go pretty aggressively in that class is challenge how people think about AI, how it actually impacts the workforce. And as one role changes as a career digital marketer and what they now can do in that same period of time, or what, another student who's an executive coach can now do their own digital marketing as well. Like in one hand, one person's more effective, it can do more work and it has kind of like this new, flow of doing things, but also they need to look at what they're doing differently because other people can actually kind of do something similar, but they don't have the same experience. So, I kind of really enjoyed that approach of this class. And I think, before this class, you spent years as a lifeguard and a supervisor. So for people who haven't done that or only know what that looks like from watching Baywatch reruns, what does that role actually involve?
So I actually had 2 lifeguarding jobs. One of them, I worked at it for 6 years. I was at a Hanson Dam Aquatic Center in San Fernando Valley. It's in Silmar. That one's a much bigger lifeguard. That was more like Baywatch-esque kind of style. And then I worked out of my local pool that I grew up and took swim lessons in for like the majority of that time was 10 years. As a lifeguard, just kind of guarding was just watching the water. But when I became a supervisor, my role transitioned dramatically. I wore a lot of hats. I wore an operations manager. I would do admin work. I was a incident commander in the event of emergencies. I would have to organize staff trainings. I taught the lifeguarding class itself, so brought in the new lifeguards. I taught swim lessons, private ones, semi-private ones, group swim lessons. I was in charge of sometimes organizing the registrations for like all the classrooms. So hundreds of people showed up. So it was a lot of work. Um, Particularly one of the things that was really hard for me is even though I did all that stuff, I'm not the best at admin. I'm really good at executing. Like when you here's something, go present it, go do it, go be a star. And that was always really easy for me. But being able to organize my thoughts internally and then put it out on paper, the admin stuff, the creating agendas, the hey, we got the junior lifeguarding program. You have 2 months in advance. I need to know exactly what you're gonna be doing. Brother, I know what I'm gonna do, but you have to show that out, right? And I started thinking about it. Like at the end of the day, you're gonna have to do this in the corporate world. Damn, I'm not good at this. And one of the things I started realizing, I was like, I could really, really, really use AI to help me out so much in the areas that I'm not that good at. Hey, I know I want to do these things. Generate me a nice looking Word file that I can submit to my boss. I know that the staff training is going to come. We're going to talk about X, Y, and Z. Like, we're going to talk about how to save a life, how to talk to customers. And I want to know how this can all relate into one bubble where I don't have to worry too much about how I'm going to structure my thoughts. 5 minutes, and it made my life so much easier.
So if we could go back in time and now you had some sort of AI tools and knowledge, to kind of help you out in that lifeguard role. And now something that took you 3 hours now takes you 10 minutes, to put all those files together, organize your thoughts and kind of put them together. What would you do with the remainder of your time to as a lifeguard and supervisor to increase the quality, safety of your work center? Like, how would you put more Eber into your organization with the free time that you get back?
I think that's a great question. I never even thought about that because you're right. It would give you a lot more time. And I think what I would make more Eber is, for example, I'm not the artistic one, but we had a lot of information boards, right? And I'm really good at presenting the information, but I can't put it on the boards, right? And my daunting task was like, if I could do that, it's such an easy task, but I would always hand that off to other people. I don't want to do this. It's gonna look dead and look very boring, and it's not gonna look what it is. And because I'll be able to do that, I can able to maybe even go market my programs more. I have a junior lifeguarding program. Here's this really, really nice looking platform marketing folder, PowerPoint flyer, and this is me. Now I can go and show it. Because one of the things is when you're spearheading these programs, you're in charge of everything. Like I gotta make sure that like, hey, if you don't advertise this, your program's gonna die. And that was my struggle. Like the creating these advertisements, not talking about it was easy, but if I had something else to take with me that does the things that I'm not good at, oh man, I would go around everywhere, show it out. Like I can go talk here, I can go talk here. I have something nice that I can present, and in having something nice that I can present, I can show a better version of myself.
Interesting. It always goes back to our example of like using Gamma.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah, and like students that would struggle with the PowerPoint behind them of it not looking well. Like now you're like, hey, now that I actually have something that can prepare a digital product for me that's visual and something that I'm comfortable with, I can actually put more of myself into this and actually maybe go down this road and try new things. So I think one other thing I'm thinking of as I'm listening to all this, Eber, is where did it go? Oh, how did this class change how how did this class change your value? Hang on, sorry. Did this class change how you value your ability to explain things?
I think I've always had those kind of skills internally. But I would actually I would talk to my AI and be like, hey, I feel like I have all these skills. Like, what is it that I'm really I feel like I'm not like what did I gain from all this time? What did these 10 years of working, talking, you know, doing all these things that I even the things I didn't like, what did I gain from that? And in talking to the AI, it pulled out a lot in me that made me kind of see the different skills that some of them were already for sure very highlighted, but other ones I'm like, damn, I do those things. Um, and I think it's allowed me to see how well I can create, um, how well I can connect with someone with new information. So one of the things that I got from using AI was my brand statement, was bridging the gap between accessibility and complexity. And what does that really mean? To me, it meant the idea of some things can be really, really hard to understand. And most people, if they don't understand something, they're just not going to want to do it. Um, and I realized that I've always had that kind of skill in me. And finding that word, those words in particular, was so meaningful to me because in being able to have something concise, but I think very impactful and very meaningful, I can now use that to my advantage. So the value to me wasn't something being able to generate that within me, the realizations, the self reflections, the internal visual mindset, to allow me to understand that. And now I feel like more than ever, I have to use my voice. I have to be, there has to be somewhere where me being able to talk and speak can be something very meaningful for a lot of people, you know. And when I mentioned it to the group here that I've never really thought about ever using my voice. This is the first time I'm in a podcast, so very grateful for the opportunity. But I definitely think that if I'm in a classroom and if I shine so much in a classroom, why can't I take this somewhere else? And that can be anywhere. A teacher, a presenter, a communicator is always sought after. And the more I've been able to kind of, even after college, you kind of get demoralized. Quote, time passes by. Work is really hard to find, especially in California and overall the times economically speaking. But you know what? I'm inspired at the same time that if I can teach people, help more than anything. I was just a participant in the classroom, but if I can use my voice for good there, then there's something that I should be doing to get my voice out. So I've even used AI to be like, hey, what can I really do to do these things, right? So definitely, I value that a lot more, and getting my voice out, I think, is something that I really want to pursue.
Awesome. So, speaking of getting your voice out there, so let's shift here and walk us through the job search moment that we had in class. So we were searching for just regular old jobs out there that people were pursuing, that may have AI in the job description, or what AI skills were we learning in classroom that day that would apply to existing skills on those jobs that may benefit from AI in the future. Kind of thinking of like, how would this skill become improve or change with some of the things that we learned over this class. But you stopped searching by degree, and instead you started searching by skills, talking, presenting, engaging, educating. And then what did your discovery kind of lead you to?
Yeah. So this one was a very exciting moment for me. I used with the thing we were supposed to do in class was use Google Gemini, and we kind of just searched up. I can't remember my original search. I think I have it here, but my original search was kind of just random things. But then I was like, ah, man, like I had this degree. I don't even know if I really like it. Professor BB convinced me that this is what I wanted to do. Not a lot of Professor BBs out there, so I ended up pursuing economics. But and I was like, okay, well, what is it I really enjoy doing? And you're right, those things that you mentioned were the things. So I went on Gemini on the top, and I asked it to. I was like, I'm looking for jobs that require me to that use these kind of skills. And there was like customer success management, and it was really cool because it told you like, hey, this job is heavy on presenters, or this job is a good combination between a teacher and a communicator, or staff training, and I was like, these are all great things. And I clicked on one, and it took me to this link to a teaching position to teach AI at a community college in Irvine. And I applied for that. Dennis, you motivated me a lot to do that. So I'm really happy you did. I haven't heard back from them, but you know what? At the end of the day, I did my due diligence. And to me, it was exciting because it showed that I didn't even consider some of these jobs. I didn't even know there was opportunities like that for me. And it was exciting to see that I, eh, I was so kind of fixated and closed-minded on what I thought my job market and my job kind of applications, what I should be looking for was supposed to be. Um, but I feel like my doors were open, and I saw a massive list of job openings. And I'm like, these are all really highlighting my skills. And to me, it was very exciting. I've been applying to a lot of jobs since, and a lot more jobs that are very focused on the skills that I like the most about myself. Could I do a lot of things? Absolutely. But I think when I think about a lot of what I want to do, I definitely want to be able to find places where I'm able to use my best skills to shine the most. And using AI was how I found that. Like to me, it was like a treasure cove of opportunity.
Thanks so much. So, all right, next, I want to zoom out for a moment. And Kat, from your workforce development mind, as you're listening to Eber talk about stumbling across an AI teaching position and then applying for it while in an AI class, what stands out to you?
I have to say, one, you seem like a very extroverted, and like you said, you love a challenge and you're an outgoing person. But the capacity to be learning and also be taking a job and be interested in taking a job where that is a skill set met, your own confidence. You seem a very confident person, but being able to experience what you did in the classroom and being able to apply for a job and go for it with knowing that you still have capacity to keep learning and shaping and growing who you are with this tool and your role. There's a shift that stands out to me in how you reframed your identity. You stopped searching for work by degree and title and started searching by skills. And when a person stops defining themselves by credentials and starts defining themselves by capabilities, that mobility opens, that career pathway cracks wide open. So you just literally unleashed yourself. And how does that feel?
That's actually such a liberating way to put it. And I love that. I think, when I brought it up to Dennis, I was like, Dennis, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have teaching credentials. Like, yeah, I've taught classes, but I had a lot of doubts. I had a lot of doubts. And I think the doubts come from, again, like my experience as a teacher is there. Like the core of how I could teach is there. But to teach in a college classroom, like, I don't even have a material. Like, what are they going to ask me for? And then it said, just take the jump. Just go for it, man. Like, you got nothing to lose. You have the skills, you have the ability, to teach. I could help you out. So it was nice to know that I had a helping hand. But I think more than anything, I realized like, there's no, like, I'm not so binded to what I got my degree on. Yeah, I'm proud of my degree. It was hard. Some moments were very difficult. So like even though I used AI for a good chunk of my last year, it was a lot of work that I had to do to pass some of my classes. Um, and despite a lot of family and like outside pressures telling you like you have your degree, this is what you're supposed to pursue. I'm realizing that at the end of the day, even whether it be school or even whether it be in the class with Dennis, like really what you learn is a mindset. And sometimes we kind of close off our mindsets. What I learned in school was how to become a critical thinker. What I learned in Dennis is how to shift the mindset of how you consume AI. And what I learned even more so about myself is shifting the mindset that I'm not limited to the things that, I thought I was. There's so much opportunity out there and I feel very liberated, a little bit more at ease, and things will work out much more, I think, now than ever. Yeah, I think I'm very happy about kind of having these shifts mentally. And a lot of it's been inspired by how I've been surrounding myself with people that kind of see those things within myself, and that's always very nice feeling.
Yeah, and I would define this as leverage, right? So
Mm.
you didn't use AI to replace your learning. You accelerated your clarity through the use of that tool. And so, Eber, this helped you um, go and articulate strengths that you had, but redefine them, look at them different, and then apply them in a completely new direction. And so when you can take that learning, the structure, and then teach, that's not, you just don't have AI literacy right now. You now have leadership capacity. And so now you're looking at yourself as I've learned it, I've practiced it, I've seen a wide variety of other people use it. I've brainstormed with them. I've moved things from my little whiteboard to assets into my system into with the computer and your artifacts that you created. You've done all of these things, and like you said, now you can leverage what you have and what you've done, and it's huge when you can go from well, I should say there's a big distinction between tool literacy and transferable literacy. So tool literacy means that you can operate something. Transferable literacy means you can operate something. But what you have is the ability to explain something. So you now are shifting to a mindset of instructional literacy, which means now that you have the ability to create and scaffold things for other people, a classroom, friends, the folks that you worked with within your classroom when you were with Dennis in LA. So, and this isn't because you have decades, right, behind you of teaching. Like you don't have instruction, you don't have the degree to do that, but because you understand the structure well enough, you can guide others, and that signals your own internal mastery. And I think it's really impressive.
All right. So, Eber, hearing that, all right. So, I've been known to push my students a little bit here and there. Teaching cybersecurity for years. I see potential in a lot of students and where they could be. And I think what's hard for students is they don't have hindsight. They only kind of see where they're at and kind of have the guidance of other instructors. So I've been known to like gently nudge and it sometimes like give a little push. I definitely did a little bit of like pushing with students in this class because I saw so much potential where people were going and just like, how can we nudge them along? But um, I gave you like a little bit of a like during we really got to know each other during the class. So I felt like I gave you a little bit more of an intentional push in that classroom. And how did that change just your outlook on your future career as you're navigating the modern workforce in the era of AI?
I think for me, it's knowing in that classroom, I would probably say maybe like, what is it, like 30, 40 students? Maybe like two of us genuinely knew, at least, I mean, I would include myself in that too, but and when I say genuinely knew how to use it, I think there's still such a large scope of knowledge that would still needs to be learned. But what did that really tell me is that most people don't know how to use it. One of the things that we talked about even in the class was that it was really hard to even get a good program to kind of get launched inside the LA area. And I even asked you, I was like, is that can that be really true? Like I feel like everybody could should be on this. But I think that spoke volume to me about the fact that there's such a big demand for this, but so few literacy for it. So few like competence to really get the juice out of this. Um, and I think for me, it's realizing that because the teaching job was only one of like I don't know 10 that I saw, whether it be within teaching a classroom on AI literacy or even teaching how companies are trying to implement AI and how they can use the AI for their own means. And I think that shows like one, the direction in which the job market and the labor force is going, but it also shows the opportunities for someone that's educated in these things, the demand, the need, the why this class is even important in the first place. Because at the end of the day, there are many companies that are replacing people with AI. That's the unfortunate truth. But I think those aren't the companies that are going to succeed because it's not here to replace us. It really is not. It's really here to help enhance and develop our work. And only the people who have the best form of knowledge, of comprehension and understanding of this are I think the ones that are going to succeed the most. It makes sense to me to want to have your employees, have your workers find the best means of production, of efficiency. And that's again the economist speaking, right? Like from a business standpoint, you would want your employees to find the highest output. And I think that this is it. Like when you teach somebody how to do their best form of work, like for 70% of the effort, that it would increase morale, it would increase productivity, it would increase output, on every possible metric that you could like assess this, it's gonna be beneficial. And I think that to me, the where this is going is gonna be an AI dominant workforce, but only the most understanding people will be able to really like find the best things from this.
So, congratulations, you find yourself in a role teaching AI. You're in a class full of students, first day on the job, and there's a handful of students in the class that say to you, AI isn't for people like me.
Hmm.
What do you say to your class?
I think we just don't know. We don't know what AI is for. I would also say like it's never good to ever like really tell somebody like, hey, you're wrong. But I think we take it step by step. Baby steps are important, right? We can't go full steam ahead. There's a lot of reservations, a lot of fear. I think there's a big like sentiment and stigma that AI is almost like bad, right? And I think when we're able to show somebody like, tell me about yourself in a corporate lens, and then they ask them that, and they don't have a really good response for you. And then we go into AI and be like, okay, that's fine. We're gonna do something. We'll do a little exercise. We get an out. We put a prompt. We get an output. Generates a response that sounds very authentic, very them, and they start to slowly build trust. Right? We have to be able to trust the tools that we're using. And I think one of the things we talked about in class was the guardrails concept. Like, what is it that we're really going to be using for? Because there are things that you could use this for that are like really bad, right? There's generative AI that can slander somebody's name, right? And that's the things that we don't want to do. But certain guardrails that we want to use, how we use it for the benefit of yourself and the benefit of others around you, I think is really important. So we first need to generate the trust. We got to trust that our hammer is going to nail, right? But we're not going to use our hammer to hurt somebody else. Could those two things are important? Sure. Should we stop making hammers? No, we should learn how to use it correctly. Similarly, like if I were in the class, I think for me, it's just we're gonna do exercises to slowly understand what it is that we're gonna be doing. If it's not for you, we're gonna see how we can make it for you. And if by the end of this, you really it's not for you, you don't have to use it. You don't have to use it, right? But I promise you that the 50 other people that are using it, they're gonna steamroll through you, and it's the truth. It's the truth. Now, will I be so blunt, so rude about it? Probably not. But we have to come to terms with the idea that this is definitely the future. Like we thought we'd be having flying cars by now, but who knows? Maybe that might take us there.
Maybe, I'm still waiting for my hoverboard.
I'm just gonna go on by saying I said this is beginning, but I appreciate you guys for having me on here for the opportunity to speak. I know I talk a lot, but I think there's just a lot to say, and I think more than anything, if I could leave anybody with the opportunity or the thought of ever considering joining a program with this team or joining an AI class, I say do it. You have to do it. You're gonna learn something from it. You're gonna come out maybe finding stuff about yourself or even just using tech in general. But I think the class that the team has here is really good. It's very engaging, and I hope, I mean, invite me whenever. I'm always open to the opportunity.
So I do have one more thing to say. Surprise. Dennis, you and I have talked about workforce development and especially work-based learning and giving students the opportunity to try things that they think they will like. A lot of people will be like, I want to try this job, do a job shadow, job tour, or walk along, job shadow somebody because they want to see this job that they think they're very interested in. And oftentimes, folks learn during those workforce exposure moments that, oh, this is not a thing for me. This is not what I want. This isn't what I want to do at all. There's parts of it I don't like. And if we look at using artificial intelligence that way, when you have someone say, it's not for me, challenge them, because you might find people who have been the most reluctant. And I know we've done this and seen this with folks in our classes who have been afraid of it or had misconceptions about what it does or what it can do. Try it before you decide. Because if you are a person who is creative, if you are a person who loves really A-type personality and loves things very structured, if you love there's so many different ways this fits every person out there. And that's that challenge of try it. Maybe if this is the reverse. If you don't think you're going to like it, try it anyways. Like your mom, try broccoli. You may like it, you may not. But it's one of those things. You have to experience it before you can make that decision. And I really appreciate all those and our participants and our students who've stepped into this space boldly and tried it, and all the amazing things they've been able to do with it.
Also, Kai, you did a great job developing this program too.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a conversation. Eber, go be a star. I love that.
I appreciate it.
Eber's story here is a reminder that the biggest barrier to AI literacy, it isn't intelligence, it's exposure, it's confidence, it's knowing where to start. He didn't describe AI as magic. He describes it as a relationship. A personalized instructor you learn how to build based on how you learn best. And then something else happened. When he stopped searching for work based on credentials and started searching based on skills, his voice, his ability to teach, his ability to translate complexity into something people can use, new doors showed up. So that's the point of this pilot. It's not to create AI users. It's to create learners who can steer. AI doesn't replace learning. It changes the shape of it. And when it's taught well, it doesn't just add tools. It gives people momentum. Thanks for watching. Yay.
Yay.
That's a wrap.
That was a great ending, Ben. Yay. Good job, everybody.